IVM.
This is Audiogyan, and I am your host, Kedar Nimkar. Welcome to a deep dive into the minds of luminaries from the Indian creative world. Welcome to a brand new series of Audiogyan, Where Are the Designers? It's a 12-part series featuring few of the top influential design leaders talking about the process of hiring, challenges in finding and retaining talent, and some tips for young designers to make a cut after they apply. I'm so happy and proud to introduce my co-host for this series, Abhinit Tiwari, who has been heading the design at Gojek. Hey, Abhinit. Hi. Welcome back.
Hey Kedar, happy to be here again.
How's it going in Jakarta?
It's pretty good, especially right now. It's the COVID is on the low. So yeah,
That's awesome.
it's pretty good right now.
We are recording this in a backdrop of COVID, the second wave, which is quite scary, and it's quite panic out there in the world, especially in India. But dekhte, some refreshing thoughts from design community coming your way. So let's see. Today we have Navneet Nair with us on Audiogyan. He currently heads the design at PhonePe. For last 2 decades, he has been a hands-on practitioner of design and user-focused creative arts. Navneet has worked in both individual contributor roles and leadership positions at various startups and established companies like Google, Yahoo, to name a few. And he has been on Audiogyan previously, so I'm just going to welcome him back. Hey, Navneet, thanks for joining us.
Absolute pleasure to be back here, Kedar. Thank you for those kind words. And yes, we are right now in the backdrop of a rather grim situation. But hopefully, let's talk about things that designers would hopefully want to hear. And let's see if we can get something out of this series.
Sure. So, in fact, what we have done is I've introduced like a sort of some media type setup hai, where we have introduced like a rapid fire round. Just like getting to know some personal things about designers. हमेशा सेलिब्रिटी का ही क्यों सुनना है, तो मैंने बोला आजकल डिजाइनर्स भी सेलिब्रिटी हो गए, तो probably we'll ask a few things around that. So there are like about 10 rapid fire questions. I think I'll take them up, and then Abhinit will continue with our regular follow-up questions.
Sure.
Cool. Ready, Navneet?
Yes, sounds good.
Okay. So first question is big setup or a small startup? You have to answer in 1 or 2 words. Huh?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. No, but if you have to like pick one.
If I have to pick one, I would pick up a small setup with great vision, or small startup with great vision, or a big setup with really nice people.
Nice way to put it. What do you think? What do you look in a designer? Attitude or aptitude?
Aptitude, definitely.
Okay.
Aptitude is actually no. Come to think of it, aptitude is. See, again, I look at growth mindset. So I know you want a short answer. So I think attitude. I'll change my stance on that. I think it's attitude.
Okay.
Aptitude.
But we are going to poke you around with that question much more in detail.
Yes.
But yeah, so you can change the answer anytime. Yeah. Favorite design book?
I would want to say Psychology of Things, but I also highly recommend Kathy Sierra's Badass.
Okay. Favorite design quote, if you can remember?
It's a Steve Jobs quote, fairly often quoted, often misquoted, misaligned. Design is not about how it looks, but how it works. I think that's more or less.
Nice. Favorite designer? You can pick any abroad, India, anywhere. I don't know. We want more Indian celebrity designers, but yeah.
So, no one really stands out as like a favorite designer for me, actually speaking. The thing is, there are people I respect, but there are Hey, I need some time on this, man. I really don't know
Hey,
who my
this is
favorite
rapid.
designer is.
Okay, no problem. Well, we can be, because it's my first time also, and I think Abhinit, yours also first time to ask this sort of question. So both are learning. Beta version है ये, ठीक है? Cool. Worst design decision in your career? I mean, if you remember, it's not like a rapid fire one, but still.
Yes, I think it has to be the Orkut redesign.
Okay.
So yeah, long story, long history to that, but Orkut redesign.
Nah, chalo, we'll come back. We'll circle back on this question. Interesting. Okay. Worst hiring decision.
Worst hiring.
मतलब किसी को hire किया और फिर like very tough to get rid of.
There was one, but I don't think it was. See, the decisions have not been because of the people, but it's just the circumstance. So
Right.
I would say yes. There was one. I of course won't name names. No absolute want to go back and give any hints. But I think more it has to do with not really the people. People are, you go through the interviews, you understand how they are, more or less, you know, they're good people, but circumstances sometimes don't work.
Yeah. Your favorite interview question?
It has to be, tell me the last time you really f***ed up. So that is kind of, not in exactly those words. Usually during an interview, it is like, okay, when was the last time you made a mistake? And okay, like you asked for, so it was design decision. So those kind of things, I think really gives a lot of insights into what people have learned along the way.
Absolutely. Your favorite app?
Right now, I spend a lot of time on YouTube. I don't know whether it's my favorite app, but I'm right now like spending a whole lot of time on YouTube. A lot of screen time going out, but I think it's so much about just the content being king. That's pretty much what it speaks of.
And the last one is, since I did like a interview with you before, I know the personal side, so that's the last one. If you have 1 hour, will you meditate? Will you play with your cat, or you design something?
I think I would meditate. I would definitely meditate. If I had an hour, in fact, this was a time I was supposed to be on retreat. Unfortunately, COVID happened and the retreat got cancelled.
Okay.
But any chance to meditate, that will be the first choice.
Awesome. Cool. So that wraps up our rapid fire round. We'll pick up few clues from what you answered, and the first one, which Abhinit, you want to go ahead, or should I take one?
I can take it.
Yeah, please.
Cool. So the first question, Navneet, it might reveal your age, but that's not why we're asking this. But for the benefit of our audience, could you just touch on how long you've been in design, and specifically, like, when was the first time you had to hire some designers? And if you could recall for us, how did that feel?
Right. So I have been doing software product design for more than 20 years. 21 years to be precise. Wow. And before that, about for 4 years, I used to work in advertising, primarily print media, doing a bunch of writing and design. So have been doing, hiring designers for some time. But the very first design hire, so to speak, when I was kind of leading a team at a Bay Area startup was probably year 2001. We were expanding to a team in Belgrade in Serbia. And my first design hire was a Croat designer based in Serbia. And interesting thing, I had a few Serbian friends, understood the culture a little bit. There was some sort of a, little bit of stuff going on between Croatia and Serbia, and interesting to hire a Croat into the team and how it would be. But it was an interesting thing, and I think it worked out well. I still am in touch with the designer, and it was good. So yeah, 20 years ago.
Wow, that's quite a long journey. So, like, what has been your overall process like in you can pick any particular company or across your career span that what's the typical process of say hiring, or how do you does the HR create the pool for you? You have, yeah, I mean, like how do you identify a particular person, or how do referrals play a role? Generally, like how you hire, like at a
Right.
broad level.
Right. I think it really depends. If you look at it today, we have a recruiter, a sourcer who kind of plays a primary role in getting a lot of candidates into the pipeline, which we review and work with. Having worked with companies like Google and Yahoo, that was the case where we didn't even know, how the pipeline was being filled, because they were getting resumes, hundreds and hundreds of resumes by the minute. So there was never a question of the pipeline actually being dry. However, having set up my own design studio for a while and having to hire for there, it was always about keeping your eyes open for good design candidates and making sure you're going talking to people. So there have been people that we have talked to who today are design leaders, fairly well known, but we had to get them aboard, talk to them, and had to keep a tab on what people are doing out there. So some people might be active on a Dribble platform, or might have some very interesting stuff that they are sharing on other places. It's very important to keep in touch. And, despite the fact that you might have an HR team that is sourcing, a lot of the time, good designers actually either reach out to you, or you reach out to them. So that's very important to, even when you're looking at hiring for fairly larger companies also.
Mm-hmm.
And despite the fact that you might have an HR team that is sourcing for you and filling up your pipeline. That said, I think what I have at least realized in this space at PhonePe is that referrals are actually a large portion of designers who we have finally ended up hiring. So people going through the entire process and finally getting hired, a large portion of designers are actually referrals. And these are primarily people who have worked with either designers in the past, and there is a good understanding of what the designer is capable of, or it is somebody who has worked with either engineers or PMs, which is actually a very good sign. When a PM or an engineer tells that, oh, this designer is good, it doesn't just talk about the caliber of the designer, but also the caliber of the designer as a team member. So referrals are definitely important. And what I've found is that for at least the number of hires that we have made at PhonePe, it forms a fairly large portion of our team right now.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that I'll take you back to this question, because since Abhinit said we don't want to reveal your age, but back then, what was the process? Because there was no really product design or and I want to especially highlight this. I interviewed Sujata Keshavan, and this, I think, I don't know whether you guys heard the episode or not, but it's already live. She said that in 1980s, actually, yeah, around 89, and when they started Rian Keshavan, people were actually paying designers on square meters or square inches. Like creative idea ka to fees hi nahi tha, layout का fees नहीं था. It was just that bromide thing which they worked on, और फिर उसके ऊपर मतलब उसको enlarge करेंगे तो ज़्यादा पैसा मिलेगा. That's about it, right? So a very nuanced thing that these sort of people have really struggled hard to bring design to the table, as a cliche word goes, but at least bring to the mainstream. तो वैसे Orkut, Google, से भी पहले there would be some things, right? So how did you get into it? First of all, ये फील्ड भी समझना जरूरी है ना कि यार, मतलब मेरा तो लाइक आई स्टार्टेड विद एडवर्टाइजिंग एंड देन फिगर्ड आउट कि यार अच्छा वेबसाइट भी बनती है, वो वेबसाइट को प्रोडक्ट भी बोल सकते हैं इफ इट्स गॉट अ फ्लो एंड स्टफ. तो दैट्स हाउ आई एंटर्ड. बट इफ यू कैन जस्ट हाईलाइट फ्यू पॉइंट्स फ्रॉम that time.
Very early on, so it's very, very difficult to find people especially when the field is really small. And because there are so very few people out there, so you need to look for a niche community. Now, the good thing about things that are just starting up, so especially when the web was just starting out, there would be these small communities where there would be a lot of knowledge sharing happening. And these were the places that people who are really passionate about the field would come and spend a lot of time. And this is the place actually where I got hired from. So, for example, I was on this community called Flash Media. So I don't exactly remember what the name was, but it was a very active Flash community. And
this was on Yahoo groups, probably.
No, this was some user group that was there. It was probably one of those early Drupal or one of those early group chats, group kind of things that was there. Not even like a mailing list. It was an actual discussion board that was there. And the discussion board was a lot of, I don't know if you've heard of PlayStation. PlayStation is this guy who used to design amazing Flash websites, and he used to post all of the code out there for free. And he used to be there on the site, and a lot of stuff. I also had a website, and I would design stuff, code stuff, put it up for free where people could download it and start using it. So there was a sort of a standing within the community that I had, as somebody who understood the tool, at least Flash at that time. And there was this startup that was looking for someone who understood Flash because they were building a product in Flash. They thought, okay, you can actually build a product using Flash as an interface. And so they were going around Flash communities and noticed, oh, this guy seems to be posting a lot. Why don't I call him and have him come over? So that's how I got hired. So it's through these niche connections that you make out who's doing what work and do that. Now, if you're today, if you're looking at some of these things, maybe AR, VR, there are communities out there that are doing stuff. There is NFT. There is a huge NFT community. So if you want to find people who are doing stuff in that, you will probably have to go deep into the community and find out, okay, who are the guys who are actually serious about this, and then pick up those gems. And it's all about being like this jeweler who knows how to pick gems up from various rocks that are out there. So it becomes very interesting, especially when people really don't know who are the people out there. It's not like there are like today UI UX everybody knows, and then there were like bunch of people who are doing stuff on their own. There is like so much of stuff available out there. When we started out, there was nothing much. There were like 2 or 3 people who were like really doing cutting edge stuff, and then you have to look up to them and then learn from them, and then you yourself start doing stuff and then start posting. So if you're looking for something that you're starting up, go deep into the community, find those raw rocks that are actually gems, and then it is up to you to do the cutting, do the shining, and do the glazing around, and then make them the actual diamonds that they are. So it's a lot of work.
So yeah, I remember Joshua Davis was probably the name.
Yes,
Joshua Davis Studio.
Yeah, he became this guy who did a lot of illustrations on surfboards and stuff. Now that's what he does.
Some amazing stuff came out in that time. Yeah. So I like to change tracks a little and go to something a little more serious, Navneet, and talk about diversity, right? Like, do you? I'm very happy that like it's kind of become a bigger part of our consciousness in recent years. But could you recall for us, like, was there a particular moment or a time when you had some sort of a thought that
absolutely
that you were consciously working on making your team more diverse?
Yeah, we had a big problem in hiring for diversity at this point of time, because we didn't have enough dog people in the team. Being a cat person myself, I think all the designers we were hiring were all cat people. Like we had like 5-10 cat parents, and absolutely no dog parents. Now we have 2 dog parents. Anyway, cutting. I mean, jokes aside, right?
Yeah.
Diversity. thankfully has been taken up as a serious topic within PhonePe itself. So there is a committee that has been set up that includes top 5 women leaders in the organization who are kind of going up and saying that, okay, PhonePe is serious about diversity within its team and wants to hire more women and people from other communities who either an LGBTQI community. We're looking at diversity as the top focus in this year for hiring. So that itself gives us a good platform to stand on as far as the design team is concerned. As for the design team itself, actually, luckily, we've had no problem in hiring for diversity so far. We've had not the best ratio. It's not a 50-50 ratio, but close to a 60-40 ratio that is there, including people with varied abilities on the team itself. So it's a fairly diverse team that is there right now. It didn't start off like that. So when I joined, the team was very small, not too diverse at that time. But at the same time, it was a conscious effort. So it was a conscious effort to say that, when we are looking at people, if there are people who are not part of the team so far, we will try and accommodate for that. But it becomes very difficult, especially when you're starting the team off to think about diversity. Because if you have to hire 4 people or if you have to hire 3 people, thinking about diversity becomes very difficult. So, you really have 3 people to fill in at strategic roles, and then you will have to hire based on who's the right fit for that particular role. And diversity may not be a important thing that you may have to keep in mind. But at the same time, we always have made sure that when people are coming through the pipeline, we make it comfortable for people to, be part of it. So definitely, it takes a little bit of careful planning. But at the same time, you can't really plan for diversity. You need to make sure that, there is enough inflow in the pipeline itself. And to do that, you need the organization itself to be committed to that, which luckily we do have at this point.
And I know, Navneet, that you were joking, but I think that highlights the point that diversity is not just about gender,
Absolutely,
right?
it is not just about gender, and that was a very serious thing, because we were doing this so we have this Instagram channel started where we are posting about people and the pets, and suddenly we're looking at the pets and there's like one dog. All the rest are like cats out there, and I myself have got like 5 cats at home. So that's like,
Wow.
I think to your point, I've been with teams at Google where the design leader was a Malayali, so there were like lots of Mallus in the team. At Yahoo, there was Sandeep Datar who was there. So we had a lot of Maharashtrians, and I used to say our design language is Marathi. So it's like, I don't know whether it is, a subliminal bias or whether it is something that happens. We really need to be very conscious about when we hire. Sometimes it does have, an effect on them.
Correct. I remember 2 things from this. One was I did a interview with Ashwini Deshpande and Elephant Design. So we were in a studio, and she said, Kedar, the studio which we came to through the stairs were designed for, I think, like a male 6 feet guy, right? And it's so even the these days the kitchen platforms are designed in such a way that a shorter person can handle it, right? So these are the nuances where we have turned a blind eye towards.
Yes.
And I think for India, we are sort of in a catch-22 situation, because we have to deliver. So the fit is important rather than diversity. But at the same time, the diversity consciousness or being sensitive to those things is coming heavily from the West. So I think we have just stuck. And the other thing which was there is this. I was reading this book, Ruined by Design, Mike Monterio, and he was saying that in a Valley typical startup, you'll have 5 white male sitting and designing something. So he was just sabotaging the entire thing, and he makes a conscious effort of hiring. But in their case, I think they are taking from 100 to 1,000. Here we are like all 0 to 1.
Yeah.
So it's a different situation, I think. But yeah, good to know.
But even if during that point, if we take some conscious look at our own biases, and just make sure that we are not sidelining people for a certain reason. So those are important things that we need to think about, because sometimes it might be a bias that may come off as saying I don't like that personality trait, but it might be an inherent bias in yourself. And it may reflect as a personality trait on the candidate, and that should not happen. We should be very careful about that.
Yeah, that's a good one. So before we jump next, let's take a quick break.
Hey everybody, it's been a great week on the IBM Podcast Network. On The Wire Talks with Siddharth, retired IAS officer KVS Sidhu shares how heartbreaking and insensitive the Jallianwala Bagh redesign is to the martyrs of the tragedy. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by Lokesh Verma, founder of Devil's Tattoos and co-founder of Heartbrook Tattoo Festival, to talk about how he came to be known as one of the world's great tattoo artists. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam is joined by finance veteran Hiren Ved, CEO, Director and CIO of Alchemy Capital Management. He shares his perspective on making long-term investments in Indian equities. On Advertising is Dead with Varun, CEO of Avalon Meta, Varun Maya digs into how he looks at learning and education and why he's bullish on voice. And on Tere Mere Raste, Keshav visits Hanle, India's highest astronomical observatory. Do follow us on social media. We're IBM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of the shows on the IBM network for that matter, please do tell a friend. We really appreciate that. And finally, I'd like to thank the sponsors on the network this week, Ciat Cred, Banco Baroda, Quarter, and CoinSwitch Kuber. We really do appreciate the support.
And welcome back to the show. So I've been facing one problem, and that is one of the reasons why this entire series is planned also, which is Where Are the Designers, that I have around 15, 16 years of experience, and the people whom I'm hiring are typically 3, 4, 5 years experience. It's kind of becoming tough to find 10, 12 years of experience or mature who can lead teams, who can inspire. So the typical problem is that the delta between my experience and the person whom I'm hiring is huge, right? So sometimes I get time depending on which company I am, but most likely it's very pressure focused. So you don't really get time to mentor or do internships. So how has your experience been? Do you hire interns or do you encourage internship? Does it allow in your work profile, in your job profile right now?
Absolutely. So I think internships are very important, and we do. I think right from when I joined, I kind of made sure that we do have interns, even if it means just me spending time with the intern and giving them feedback. From a point of view of getting new designers into the system, internships are very important, because internships are the way that young designers learn on the job. That said, an internship need not actually be something that is very draining on the system. So what we do, at least at PhonePe, is, and in most of the places that I've worked before, is that the internship problem is actually fairly orthogonal, that the team would not have time to spend on. So it could be something like saying, okay, let's look at this idea, which I think is something that we want to implement 8 months from now. Go and take a complete crack at it. Or let's say, let's give you this problem on how do we add X to the product. And it could be gamification, it could be anything else that we want to think about, and give that as a problem to the intern and let the intern solve for it. We'll provide all the support that is there. The idea of the internship program is not to actually get work out which we can use. I mean, that's the plus point. But the way I look at it is the internship is a 6-month long interview process. It is a 6-month or a 4-month period of time in which the candidate becomes very comfortable with the company and knows that exactly this is the company that they want to work for. And the company becomes very comfortable with the candidate and is sure that this is somebody they would love having on the team. So from that point of view, internships are definitely important. there would be a time when you may feel that, okay, you can't hire any more younger designers, at which point you may find that, okay, there is actually no interns that convert. But even with that, I think having that internship program is really important, because I know of interns who have interned, had a very good experience, go out, learn stuff, and then come back to the organization. So because the first experience that you have at an organization really shapes the way your career is within the industry. So internships are definitely important, and you should not think about it as a burden. Think of it as like an additional resource who's kind of handling a problem that is going to come to you 6 months down the line. And of all the interns that I've worked with, I think I've actually been able to use some of the work that they have done, and which I think is a very good outcome at the end of it.
No, but do you screen them thoroughly for internship also, or
Yes.
it is typically?
No. We do have it is definitely. So if we have like 5 interviews for design position, we have 2 interviews for an intern position. But the internship role is also something that is very tough to get in my opinion. It's tougher to get in as an intern right now, because the quality of the pool is so amazing. I'm like blown away by the quality of the young pool that is out there. People are, some of them are self-taught, some of them are doing their masters, some of them doing undergrads, but they have been exposed to so much of design that they are coming up with stuff that I find even senior designers don't think about. So getting an intern probably is a good way for you to say, oh my, I need to up my ante and I need to do a better job at design, because these guys are going to kick your ass in the next coming 4 to 3 years.
Correct. Interesting.
Sure. I can't see you, Kedar, edit this out, but I'll move to the next one then.
Okay. Yeah.
So Navneet,
yes.
next I want to understand, like, what is a good designer for Navneet? Like, if you had to name like the top 3 things that you kind of look for in a designer right now, what would those be?
Right. So here's the thing. It's about saying that like, okay, attitude versus aptitude question that was there as part of it, and kind of said, okay, aptitude. But then when I come to think of it, aptitude really does not matter, because it's come to think of a growth mindset. You are always growing. You are always growing into becoming a better designer, a better product guy, a better understanding of whatever you're doing it. That there is a certain base level that you would want people to do. For example, you may want them to have a good eye for detail. You might want them to understand colors a little better. The way they look at typography is something that you want to do. Very basic levels of design that you would want to know. But attitude is definitely very important. And the 3 things I can think of, the first one is the desire to learn.
Sure.
This again shows, somebody is willing to grow, and the desire to learn is there. They are willing to say that, yes, I understand. I have been given the feedback, and the feedback is not the way people are looking at me, but are looking at what is the output that I have put, and can I create this, can I go one level above this output and get a better outcome out of it. So if people are in that frame of mind where they're saying, I'm here to learn and I'm here to grow, that is something that is very important. The second thing, at least from a startup point of view, I feel is important, is the ability to adapt. Sometimes if you're too rigid and saying that, oh, there is a design process, it's a double diamond process, I have to do my research, I have to do my prototyping, I have to do usability testing, and then I'm going to do the release. Sometimes it doesn't work. So you need to adapt and make things work according to the needs that are out there. So definitely adaptability is the second one that I would look at. And the third one, again, coming from the point of view of somebody who's growing, is the ability to say that you need a little bit of self-awareness. And there is kind of like coming back to our, meditation and the contemplative sciences, it's saying that, unless you are aware of what state you are in, you don't know how you can move to the state that you want to be in. And that is definitely important. So these three things are things I would look for in a designer, more than saying, okay, he's a guy who is great at typography, he's a guy who is great at motion design. So that's something that can be taught.
Sure. And do you find it easy? Like, if I have to ask you, like, what's your success rate in getting candidates these days to hit this, hit these 3 points?
That's a good point. And I don't think I am really getting it, maybe a 50-50 kind of a thing.
Sure.
And there are some people who are really good on some levels, and you will never get somebody who's like just about rightly made for you and who's the best apprentice and who's going to come in and soak everything that you have to give and then become like the next Arjuna and do everything that is right. So that is not possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are, I would say even the first point, which is the desire to learn, if that is there, then I think everything else can be taken care of.
Yeah, and I totally get that feeling. And when you're saying 50-50, Navneet, this is 50-50 out of the people you decide to talk to, right?
Yes.
Like post-screening.
Yes.
Okay.
I want to ask the same question to you, Abhinit, because you have also been hiring for quite some time.
Yep.
And in this entire series, I might miss out asking you that what are your 3 qualities that you look for?
Damn. Okay, I wasn't prepared for this. But first thing I know is like, I want to know whether they understand the medium that they're working in and do they love it or not, right? Because I'm a software designer, right? I think it's important to put that prefix. So I want to know if people are comfortable with software as a medium. Recently, we've been looking into hiring more people who are great at service design as well, because we have those problems. But primarily, in that case, I want to check if that's a medium that they really love. So first thing is love for the medium. Then they learn. Second thing I would say is same as what Navneet said. Like, you have to have that desire to learn and to grow, right? Because everything else can, kind of be taken care of over years, right? But you have to have that, respect for being a better designer or yearning for being a better designer. And the third thing I would say, it has to be culture fit, right? Like, you have to be somebody who is comfortable with, and especially it probably speaks more about myself than about the candidates, but you have to be comfortable with healthy conflict, right? Like, you have to really be open with and comfortable with holding an opposite point of view, right? And this is something I look for in interviews a lot, right? Like, I deliberately try to take bad design position or an opposite position, because design to me is largely decisions and conversations, right? So that's one more thing. Like, you have to be a little argumentative for me, right? And my team in general, for you to do well. These are the 3 things I'd say, Kedar.
Wow.
You don't come across as being argumentative in any fashion.
Oh, I am.
Maybe that's why he speaks softly, just to put the point across.
This is my decoy.
Nice. Continue.
We feel this, like, sort of there isn't enough talent in the market, right? Like, as we want it. What would you say are, some of the challenges? Or if you could say, like, what are some of the things that you see in a person and you're like, no, can't hire?
Yeah, I think if...
And is there any pattern to it recently?
I think, sometimes as designers, we may get to be a little too self-centered and say, okay, design is the end all. And this is, if there is no good design, things will not work. And I feel that is a red flag going up, because I feel good products are holistic. Design is one part of it, and the other part of it is definitely saying, okay, the technology, is it something that is out there? Is the business value something that people resonate with? Is the product and the value that the company is trying to stand for, is it something that resonates? So it's a whole thing. And I think last time we talked about, strong links and weak links. And it's all about, that in terms of you are just one of those links. Design is just one of the links out there. Primarily, design starts standing out like a sore thumb within the organization, which is also not good for design itself, because we all have to work together. And if we are standing out there and saying, no, I just want to have this perfect and look really great, while there is we're going to miss the train. So if you're going to miss the train just because saying I want to make it really pixel perfect, I would say, okay, it's sometimes it's okay to miss out on a pixel just to make sure that we are getting it out on time, getting it tested, getting sure we have had the reaction. And luckily for us, I mean, I used to work in print media where I would do that. I would make sure that everything is pixel perfect, because once it goes out into print, I've had a problem once where I had shipped out a layout and there was a typeface mismatch on one, and there's a brochure being printed, and had to call up in the middle of the night, stop the printing, go send out a new artwork. Luckily for us, that is not the case right now. We go out, there is a rollout that happens. We have to wait for adoption to happen. And during all of this time, a lot of changes can be done. So that is something I feel people should at least be cognizant of, saying that, okay, when I'm looking at design, I have to look at it holistically.
Yeah. Makes sense. And I read it somewhere, Navneet, that we need to get out of this culture of competition and build a culture of collaboration. Absolutely. I feel that in some designers as well, that it's almost like it's us versus the rest of the world.
Yes.
Right?
Like it resonates at multiple levels, and I think I've become more aware of this after speaking to Navneet in the earlier episode, that we are just a cog in the entire system, and multiple things happen if you accept that, right? You expect less salaries, you expect not to be heard at times. A lot of things can happen if you put that cap on. Cool. So Navneet, like, I think it's a nice segue to the next question, because then it's not a rant, but I've seen these qualities missing, right? And where do you think, if you are into the pedagogy mode, in some places you go for workshops and talks and stuff. So is there any particular ideology which you think that because of this is not happening, especially in India, or is it the schools are not right? I mean, I had this opinion before interviewing a lot of IDC professors that you are teaching them some age-old techniques where you have to come here and write micro copies, right? So you are teaching them something X, like probably playing with lead and some random stuff. So, but because of gaining those perspectives, I've understood that they're learning fundamentals. Yes, you have to keep pace with other stuff which is happening in the industry, but still there is a gap. Now, do you see that gap, first of all? And if there is, you have any insights into why this gap is?
Yeah. So
after hiring for so many years?
Yeah, I mean, when we were hiring initially, there was only the IDCs and the NIDs that we could go to get designers. And that too, at that time when I was hiring, I was working for a startup and wanting to go get into hiring. Although knew Ravi and Anirudh and would go to IDC, there would still be the Infosys who would get in and hire most of the designers out there. So it was definitely a problem that was there in terms of designers were coming out from only very few institutions. It was one part of it. Now, what were the designers being taught at that point of time? Like you said, I think the whole profession of software design has evolved over a period of time. And it is not something that we can expect to be taught at schools. Like one of the very good things I sort of did is when I was in the Bay Area in the year 2000, there was this professor at Stanford, Terry Winograd. Terry taught both Larry, Sergey, Marissa, bunch of folks at Google, very well respected at Stanford, and he ran the human-computer interaction department at Stanford. And over there, I think every month or every fortnight, he would have people coming over and giving talks on human-computer interaction. And to me, this is where I actually learned about it. So I did my master's from University of Sydney. I don't think I learned a lot at university by doing the projects that I was doing, and not so much with the theory that was being taught. So it was a lot of practical learning that was there. But I think I learned a lot more through the stuff that Terry was putting out on the internet. And I was lucky because it was in the Bay Area. I could download large video files, watch the wonderful talks. I remember Bill Buxton giving a talk and then meeting him after a long time after that. So it's like really useful for a young designer to grow. And I think in India, we probably have not done the similar sort of things. Although today we do have like what JD is doing with Design Up is wonderful. But at the same time, a lot of what we are doing is putting out there. Even today, after 20 years, what I'm looking out, most people are still stuck in the craft of the business. So a lot of the time, it's about, okay, how do I work with Figma? How do I work with one of the motion graphics tools that are out there, an After Effects thing? That is the level at which we are doing. And I'm not saying that is not important.
Yep.
But there is the art part of it, which is also important. And there is also a science part of it. And that, I think 20 years ago, when I was in Stanford, they were still very focused on the science part of design that was being put out. And I think that is very important. We don't do enough to put the science part of design out there, and people are not understanding the science behind design, which I feel is a fault for us within the community who have spent 15, 20 years designing, not going out there and doing more to teach younger designers the importance of not just the craft, but the art and the science. And I think I have to lay the blame. I think I have to do that myself. And I think Abhinit, we've been part of that stuff that Shreyas is doing. And I really liked doing that because it gave me an opportunity to teach the younger guys a little bit more about the science.
Yeah, this is the first time I did that. And after seeing you and even Akshay who came in, I was like, I should do this more. Like, you're right. Part of the responsibility is on us.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting because even I've been giving some talks in some places, especially most recently I gave one hour workshop on how to build resumes or how to write resumes and how to build your portfolios in a college in Ujjain, right? Wonderful college, but the questions which the students ask are like totally different. And unless you go down to that level and understand their pain points or their like problem statements, whatever gyan you give from this side may not even connect. So it's a great place to be in, that you go down or you go somewhere and you actually answer their questions or at least understand their questions.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite interesting. You want to share what you guys did about? What is this, Abhinit, that you spoke about just now?
So we can plug in Shreyas's company called
Absolutely.
Own Path. He's doing an amazing job putting together courses and an environment for learning for designers. And I think both Navneet and me and Akshay Verma, all three of us kind of gave a few, I wouldn't like to call that lectures, but that's what it felt like, on a few topics to the cohort that he had. I was talking about building, designing for delight. And I think Navneet was talking about, Navneet, what was it?
I was talking about business side of design. Yeah. How to get business into design.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So you're saying the way to, if there is a gap, to mitigate that gap, it like more such sort of environment and such sort of conditions have to be designed?
I think so. And I think a lot of this has to be available freely and that is what helped me at least. I mean, I'm just taking a cue from what helped me in the sense that there was this huge, and this was way before YouTube even was like thought of. Terry had put all of the lectures online, and I could just absorb a lot of it and understand what human computer interaction was all about. And today, with all the resources available on YouTube, and frankly speaking, there is a lot of stuff that is out there.
Yep.
But maybe what we need to do is also look at the Indian context and give people the ability to say, okay, these are the right things to choose from. Make sure you are learning about this aspect of it as well, and make it available as freely as possible. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully
Navneet, I love that thought, by the way, right? Like, because talking of Bill Buxton, I remember like he had this collection of, I don't know if he still has it, he had this collection of all sorts of interactive devices over many years, right?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes I can't figure out like these leaders, like they take out so much time, or those courses, those lectures, like it takes so much time, and it's a different skill altogether, right?
Absolutely.
I think sometimes doing design is easy, right? But being meta about it and turning it into a digestible, easy to understand format and making it available is so hard. And I don't think design leaders, quote unquote, spend enough time doing that and giving back to the community. Myself guilty as well. So love that thought.
Yeah. Hey, on that note, we'll be right back.
Given the unprecedented times our nation is going through, where positive is now a dreaded word, Smile India gets you delightful news from across the country about people and places that continue to spread the much-needed hope and positive vibes. I am Shifa Maitra, and you can hear Smile India with me every Thursday on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Oh, and did I tell you, Smile India is available in both English and Hindi.
And we are back.
So yeah, Kedar, next one.
Yeah, I mean, what, like after hiring, or I've been hiring for so many years, like, is there any pattern that you have observed about designers that you're hiring? What are their aspirations? What are they looking forward to? I'll club the last question together. It's mainly to just the same thing, right? What are their incentives? What are they looking forward to?
Yeah.
These days, I mean, just to add to that, there's a trend of ESOPs and being good paymasters, and the startups are well funded. So if you put all together, is there any pattern that you have observed, or any insight that you want to share?
Yeah, and I'll be very frank over here. I think
Yes,
designers
in fact,
are.
it can be controversial also, not a problem.
I don't think it's controversial, but it's like it's a fairly universal pattern that I see. Junior designers basically want to be famous, and senior designers want to make money so that they can retire. That is pretty much the pattern that is out there. So, and this is true for everybody. I mean, when I was young, I just said, I want to be famous. I want to be well known. And then after a point, it's like, now it is like, हाँ ठीक है चलो एक IPO हो जाए चलो retire हो जाए. So those are things that are there. So if you are looking at this as a pattern, and let's say you are a well-known organization that people look up to in terms of design, you will find that you will have no problem hiring a junior designer. Junior designers will come to you. They would want to be associated with you, primarily because it's going to give them fame. That is how it would work out. And if you're looking at senior designers, no matter who is hiring a senior designer, finally it would come down to remuneration. So it would come down to saying that, okay, you have to be a good paymaster to get a senior designer. That's how I'm looking at it from a very base point of view. Now, every designer is definitely different. So I don't think there are everybody who can be put into this cookie cutter and said, okay, this is how it is. But there is a baseline that says, okay, once you are at a certain level, you've climbed up Maslow's hierarchy. You just need that extra material stuff to keep you at that point over there. So that's it. If you say that smaller companies, definitely you can say that get one really good senior designer that people look up to, so that you sort of like what Cred has done. I mean, they've got Harish over there, they've got Kunal over there. It's a startup, but then the junior good designers would just flock up over there, even if the money is not that great. But to get the senior guys, no matter where you are, you would definitely have to put in a fair amount of material rewards and incentives in place. That said, ESOPs are something that has so far been a little difficult to sell to the younger designers, definitely, and even also to some of the older people, because nobody has actually seen a lot of ESOPs work in India. However, with sudden people now trying to go into IPO with Zomato now filing, and we would start seeing this flurry of Indian IPOs happening, which might make ESOPs a very lucrative thing to have. Nazara just had their IPO, so that you can see some places where the people are having the stock options and it is paying off. But overall, even if you look at the West, the ratio of companies that have not paid up, at least I never been part of Yahoo and Google, but apart from that, all the startups that I've worked with never went IPO, never did have that. So even though I had a fair amount of stocks with them, never amounted to anything. And I think that's where it is there. You have to see something close to you. So now that Nazara has happened, maybe Zomato will happen. People will start seeing the way an ESOP works, and it will start being considered as a viable compensation that is out there.
But if I have to counter and just ask, saying, is this the right setup that we want to be in, or we want to develop, or we want to build as a culture? Because I don't know, I could be a bit of outlier when I say that, okay, I look up to Steve Jobs, not in a cliche way, but yaar, wo banda tha na, he used to, theek hai, if you do the right thing, if you do it sincerely, with integrity, with hard work, I think it will pay off, right? So public क्या कर रहा है? Pay off की तरफ देख रहा है, than the input. And I know I'm being a bit idealistic or like overly romantic about it, but that's where I'm coming from, right? So काम करो और फल मिलेगा, but yeah, don't like just look at that, right? And if I have to put this as an argument, then what can be changed, or is it a right thing in the current day and time and age we are living in? It's for both of you, like Abhinit, to you as well.
Basic human needs do. So here's the thing. I love the guy. I don't remember his name, but he kind of said, the $70,000 base pay is what he's going to make, like the base for everybody in that organization. And he talks about how he's still making a lot of profit. People are coming in and finding joy in being part of the organization, and the organization is not losing it. But there is a certain base pay that everybody needs. So sometimes you may have startups that say everything is in stock options, and you work for the joy of being in that particular thing. It can work for some time, but I think everybody is looking for a payoff at the end of it, and that is the commercial part of it. However, there are people who have gone ahead and done things because they believe in that vision. And if you believe in that vision, and there is let's say it's a not for profit kind of a thing that you're doing, and you completely believe in what is going to be the outcome of it. At least the company that I have worked for in the past, none of them have been not for profit. They have all been for profit. So if they have been in it for profit, I'm fine. I do my not for profit and the spiritually satisfying and holistically satisfying part of my job, which I keep very separate from my career, and I get my satisfaction out of that. Work for me is something that is there for just getting the material part of it, but at the same time, it is something that I really enjoy. So it's not something that I have a problem. It's still very close to my ikigai in that sense. But there is something that is more satisfying to me. I mean, yeah, I would spend an hour meditating. So, and I have lots of time that I spend on other parts of my life, which is, I keep separate from work. So if you say that I want to integrate everything, at least for me, I find that when you integrate, so coming back to something, I started off as a writer and I loved writing. The moment I became a professional writer, I found out that didn't enjoy writing as much. I still write, but I don't write professionally. Same thing with design. I love design. When I'm doing design as a profession, I'm not really enjoying it as much as I did when I started off. So maybe what happens is that if you are looking at it from a very commercial point of view, there is one part of it. You should keep your life, which gives you satisfaction, slightly away from the life that gives you the sustenance part of it. So this I'm keeping as my sustenance. I love it. I enjoy it. But at the same time, I have another part of my life which I am very committed to equally and which gives me spiritual satisfaction. So, and I keep the two separate. That's at least how I'm looking at it. I don't know how others look at it. If you try and integrate all of it together, somehow my past experience has been it doesn't work out. I don't know. Maybe for some people it might work out very well. For me, it did not work out.
Abhinit, your take?
Yeah, you pulled up Gita and all, man. So I'll pull up Buddha. Like there's something called Madhyamarg, right? So like everything in moderation, including moderation. I do think that some amount of wealth creation, like companies are very, they find it very easy to ask people to show a sense of ownership, right? Now, if you are asking that much of a person, then I think it's only fair to give them a share of the pie, so to say, in form of ESOPs. And look at the Silicon Valley, a lot of second generation, third generation founders, almost, of the PayPal mafia, right?
Yeah.
All these companies were founded off of the wealth created in the first wave, right?
Yeah.
So I think some companies in India have done that. And I think more people should do that. And ESOPs, yeah, I like them as a concept. So I think a little bit of wealth creation is good as well. That will give us the next generation of design leaders who are financially secure enough to kind of push for customers within the company. Because I do think, like being a designer, you need some sense of security because oftentimes you're the only advocate for the customers, right? So I do think that it's a good thing, Kedar, and ESOPs are a great idea, given that companies do it ethically and nicely. But at the same time, yes.
So sorry to interrupt, but I'm not saying I'm against it. It is just that now, okay, to Gita ho gayi, so I might sound a bit leftist also because in the pandemic, I've been speaking to some old friends and some people in other industries and different domains, right? One of my cousin, she's a physiotherapist, right? And I think she did some decent course and then she's there after 4 years of experience. And one is in a physical fitness. So he used to train Sachin Tendulkar, right? He's a power yoga guy. Those sort of friends and the delta between the salaries of designers and their top level professional, like top level career peaks is so huge. And I don't know. I would keep those comments and maybe articulate better for the next conversation.
Yeah,
but it's a touchy and sensitive topic.
One last comment on Jobs, right? So again, he was also very Lenin inspired, but I do think he succeeded in creating a very successful and profitable business, which and gave enough support to the designers, I think, financially as well as in other ways that they were able to focus on the work better, right? So Lakshmi and Saraswati can go hand in hand, Kedar.
Yes, absolutely. But in fact, I've realized that more recently, till college or maybe like first 5 years of my career, I think I was fully inclined towards Saraswati. So now I've like I don't know.
I
Speaking about Lakshmi, I think that's the last question which I have, which we have for Navneet, is that even now I am in a startup which is a fintech, which is a neobank, and which hopefully will become live soon. But you are in PhonePe, and with Abhinit, you have the Pay as one of the verticals. So this question is mainly to understand that we have a very, very long way to go if we have to improve the design, the aesthetic, the experience part of the fintech world in India. So, how has your journey been so far in understanding the domain? How do you envision the future of design contribution in the finance space? Because there's so much legacy, right? Everything is built considering users are mischievous, considering users are fraud. It's built on that mentality, right? So it's a very long. I don't know how long, but it's a long journey. So
Yeah,
if you have to conclude your thoughts on the design landscape in the fintech's world.
yeah. I think fintech has always been an area that is kind of surrounded with a lot of regulations.
Yeah.
And not just that, and as you're saying, people are out there to game the system. So which means we have to take that extra amount of effort to ensure that people don't do fraud. That said, usually when we have fintech products, it's kind of built for the lowest common denominator kind of a audience, saying that okay, I do want to make sure that everybody is able to use it, primarily because you do get some of the returns only at scale. So you would want to all of these three things put together. There is a lot of stranglehold of business around how fintech products work, and design sometimes takes a backseat and saying, okay, this is how XYZ products have worked. I don't want to change the system and then do that. But I don't know what you guys are going to come out with new banks coming out, with new stock coming out. People are trying to challenge the system out there and try to break the clutter and use design as the differentiator. And like Abhinit was saying, I mean, that's what Jobs did. He used design as the differentiator and said, I'm going to give you a solid product. It's going to be well designed. And I'm not catering for the entire masses. I'm catering for the people who really care about making a difference in the world. And I'm going to give them great tools to make the difference in the world. And he just made design come up like 10 notches and showed people that, okay, having a well-designed product can actually make a difference. So now, if we can show that in the fintech world also, come out and not have to worry about people that we are going after, come up with a really great product, not just good looking. And I'm not saying that design is all about just making it look good. It has to work good. So it has to work good at the same time, look good, a lot of attention to detail, and the product works great. Like we all agree. I mean, design is just one of the part of it. If you have a great designed product, but the constructs around the product is not all that great, the product will not work. So we have to make sure that all of it works and design also works. If that comes out and that trend breaks of saying having stayed products, very cookie cutter products that are currently doing the rounds over there, I think that will help designers go ahead and say, maybe we should do a little things that are more different. But today I think it's primarily a little bit of the regulations and a little bit of fraud and FRA that we need to be worried about. That kind of keeps us a little tied down in what we are capable of doing. But I think that will change. I do have a lot of hope in terms of how design has progressed and the rest of the industry. It might just be a little bit lagging behind, but it will catch up and it will definitely definitely become much better.
Yeah. In fact, I'm hopeful because I saw Yono app, which is SBI, and it works like a charm. It's aesthetically it's poor. It's whatever. It's really bad, and I can without worry say that. But the search and the sound search, this works here. I mean, it's like there is big sunshine there.
Cool.
But Go Pay mein, any insights from your country?
Yeah, I think Navneet has covered it all. I just think that, see, Kedar, in this part of the world especially, companies do not have the risk-taking capabilities, right? That say you'll see certain companies innovate a lot in payments and finance in the West. There are two major reasons for that. I think one is their laws, right? Their regulations update fairly frequently. Whereas I think in this part of the world, it takes a lot of, like, there's still a lot of bureaucracy in the way things work. Like, you remember Pine Labs has this UI somewhere where the digits get randomized. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
And they got a lot of bad feedback for that, but I'm pretty sure they did it because of a regulation somewhere, right? Like, there is some arcane rule about pin entry obfuscation somewhere, because I don't really think a designer thought that this would be a good idea. So there are a lot of such things. You have to keep double clicking on things until you find out the root cause. I've seen some designers almost become pseudo lawyers trying to understand the compliance that, do we really require these 18 steps, or is their intention different? Can this be interpreted in a different way? So that's one reason why finance is bad. Second thing is what I was talking about first, which is risk. In our society, even if a company decides to take a risk, the recovery mechanisms are super poor, right? Like, if you detect a fraud in the West, that's enough. You detect a fraud, then you'll probably do recovery. In India or in Indonesia, detecting a fraud is step one of 100 more steps. So even if you find out this is the SIM card or this is the person who did this, good luck with getting the money back.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the two things I think which, again, design isn't everything. Right. And in fintech, in design is trying to be a lot. And I see a lot of advancement in fintech where it's getting better much faster. Like, look at UPI in India. And government's still hesitant on crypto, but I hope it will come around on that too. So those are the challenges. If it's very much dependent on the system, right? Designers, I don't think, can do much without getting in trouble.
Well, I think the last part we a bit digress into design as it was a natural progression. But just to conclude, Navneet, if you have to give, I wouldn't say gyan, but just one takeaway for young designers to, मतलब किसी ने मुझे पूछा नहीं, but मैं खुद ही बजाऊंगा मेरी band. मतलब I'll say that what I would look in a designer is that वो hustle, especially in the space which I am in. तो वैसा, you have any takeaway that मतलब ये चीज यार inculcate करो कुछ भी करके?
I think it's really important to start off, especially younger designers when they start off, to, like you're saying, they need to have that hustle, but at the same time they also need to have that desire to learn, and the desire to learn from people out there. Don't be afraid of being an apprentice. Today what happens is that 2 साल में I want to become head of design. वो उसमें फायदा नहीं है कुछ. You can become a head of design at a startup, a small startup where you are the only designer. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, you are the head of yourself. So don't do that. Work with people for as long as you can learn about. I mean, if you end up in a small startup where you are the only designer, sure, I mean, learn as much as you can from that point. But then also look for great places where you can learn from. And I think India today does have, there are lots of good companies that people can spend time with, good design teams, learn from them. Don't be afraid of saying, okay, 3 saal nikala, 4 saal nikala, and then I have become a much better designer than what I was when I was coming in. So get into that mode of learning from good people, being open to learn, showing a little more humility in the fact that, yes, I am not a know-it-all. I mean, always remember the Dunning-Kruger effect. What is it? I forget the decay effect, which is basically saying that people who really start off and get a little bit familiar with the tools of the trade or with that particular profession, think they already know everything. But as time progresses, they realize that they really don't know anything. I mean, after 20, 25 years, I look at design and say, I have so much to learn. I'm looking at newer people coming in and saying, oh, wow, these guys are really doing awesome stuff. So you come to a point of realization where you realize that you don't know much. But very early on in your career, it's very easy for you to get into a state where you might think, I know everything. Mujhe to sab kuch aata hai. Don't fall into that trap.
Sure. Abhinit?
Oh, okay. All the questions are coming back to me.
No. ठीक है. So I'll have a separate Audiogyan just with you. All right. I think thanks both of you, and thanks Navneet for joining again. I'll have a plug in the last that. Thanks for listening till the end. I'm currently heading the design at Jupiter.money, and we are hiring at all levels. So visit jupiter.money/careers. And you can follow Audiogyan on Instagram at Audiogyan Moments, or then visit audiogyan.com for more GAN sessions. You guys want to plug anything?
Avneet first.
I think same stuff. Visit PhonePe.com/careers. Write to us. We are always looking for good people to join us. And I'm sure Abhinit is also looking at good people, both here in Jakarta and both here in Bangalore as well as in Jakarta. And so between the three of us, if there are folks who would want to join any of the three companies, please do reach out. We're always looking out for good designers.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks. It was quite fun. And looking forward to see you again.
Thank you, Kedar. Thank you.
And that's it from today's GAN session. For show notes and more GAN, visit audiogyan.com. If you like this podcast, please don't forget to check our other interesting podcast on IVM Network. You can listen to us on IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or any of your favorite podcasting apps. To stay tuned, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at IVM Podcast. And if you wish to connect with me, I am at Audiogyan Moments on Instagram. Until then, take care.
Remember the days when our granny used to narrate once upon a time stories? Let's bring back the good old days of moral stories with Storytime Tamil. Hi, I am Ravishankar Balachandran, host of Storytime Tamil podcast. I would like you to entertain and educate your children with stories from Storytime Tamil. Tune in to the new episode sharp at 7 p.m. every day on IVM website, IVM podcast app, YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcast from.
सफर, रास्ते, मंजिल और मुकाम अक्सर ये हमसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, पर हम हैं कि अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इन्हें सुनने से कतराते हैं। नमस्ते दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है केशव चतुर्वेदी और मैं आपको ले चलूंगा कुछ ऐसे सफर पर जहां आपको एक नया नजरिया मिलेगा सफर और मंजिलों को देखने का। आइए इन किस्से कहानियों में डूब जाएं। हर मंगलवार और शुक्रवार